None of us are in control of our lives. None of us are in control of whether we live or die. The only thing we're in control of is how we live and the choices that we make, and the choice to be happy and to be positive, and the choice to be grateful.
I'm Benjamin Oberman with Film Festival Flix, and today we have the huge honor of talking with Adam Schell, the filmmaker behind Pursuing Happiness. So thanks for coming to the studio, Adam.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. So let's go back to the beginning. Are you a happy person?
I am now. Yeah, I've always been a happy person, and that is kind of one of the inspirations for this film was, you look around and so many people, especially post 2008, so many people were depressed and feeling miserable. And then in 2012, the UN releases the first ever World Happiness Report. And, you think about World Happiness Report, where do you think we should rank on that scale, right? Pretty near the top, I would think. And that yet we're number 23 on that report. And so just having all that kind of out there, and I was just thinking, like, man, people are so miserable. Like, we got to do something to like shift the focus so that people don't always just watch the news and hear about every tragedy and mishap and failing of our country and everybody in it. Let's focus on what's great about this country. Let's focus on the people that are doing it right.
I agree with that. I mean, it's like I heard there was a comedian, Richard Jenny, once who talked about the evening news. He said it should be called what it is. 30 minutes of everything horrible packed in right before you go to bed.
Exactly, right? I mean, who wants to watch that? I guarantee you, I did this thing where I stopped watching the news. I never really watched it, but I would catch up and I would watch it. And I realized that after not watching it for about a month, I just started to all of a sudden feel better about my life. Because I was like, okay, well, yeah, there's a lot of crap that happens out there. There's a lot of, pardon my French, shitty people out there. But why are they the celebrities? Why is it that we know more about people who murder, kill, rape, steal, all that than we do about people that are doing amazing stuff?
I'm with you. I mean, Geraldo Rivera is now conservative. Jerry Springer is no longer extreme.
Right? I know. It's sad that that's the state of our world.
No, media is very much like an addictive drug. It's everything that comes out that's horribly shocking and overwhelming that you can't possibly imagine. Give it time and all of a sudden it stops being so, and someone else has to push the limit further. And then in retrospect, you're like, oh, that really wasn't so bad. I don't know what was wrong with us.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, in that was my thinking was, okay, where's this content that makes you feel good, that gives you the inspiration to do better, to strive more, to, make yourself better. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of self-help stuff out there, which is somewhat hard to digest. And, you got to be a certain mindset to get that and want to do that stuff. But I was thinking, I want the stuff that I'd watch. That's just normal, everyday people doing great stuff that are entertaining and fun and yet can inspire you. And so that was kind of the impetus. I was like, well, if we want to learn about happiness, who are the best people in the world to learn it from? The people that are doing it.
I love that because, the challenge with self-help, a great explanation of, or a demonstration of this is I had a roommate once who was a complete nut job. And she always had all these self-help books, and she'd walk in and she'd read passages to me. And I thought she was having some revelation of like, oh, I recognize this in myself. Right. And instead she would always be like, thank God I'm not this way.
Right? Yeah. No, that's denial right there, right?
And I think that's most people. Like, they don't actually want to be fixed or cured. They want to buy into it. And then, of course, it spirals you down because, as you pointed out, like, people spend billions of dollars a year trying to find happiness.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the industry of happiness, first of all, when I went to college, there was no classes on happiness. You couldn't sign up for Happiness 101. It just didn't exist. And now it's like the most popular course in colleges all over the country, all over the world. And just that says to me, okay, what's going on here? What are we missing that we have to have classes, documentaries, all this information about happiness when we didn't necessarily have it before? And that points to a problem to me. And it says, hey, we're not happy, clearly. And as is evident by the UN's report.
Absolutely. And social media, I don't think is contributing. I mean, there's actually, I don't know if it's an official term, but I've heard of Facebook depression, where people see the highlight reel from everybody else, and all they do is feel bad that their life is not as good.
Well, and then what happens is you start only posting things about your life that are good. So if you look at the Facebook highlight reel, it's only the good stuff. So if you go onto somebody else's site, you're like, oh my God, their life looks amazing. Well, I guarantee you there's a lot of stuff they're not posting about. But here's what happens, right? Is even if, let's say you do that, right? And you post the highlight reel of your life. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to look at that highlight reel and you're going to go, wait a second. My life does not match up to my own Facebook page. Right. I want to be that Benji. I don't want to be this one, you know?
And then there's the people who post all their drearies and are looking for help. And of course, I unfriend those people.
For exactly that reason, right? Who wants to be friends with a curmudgeon, right?
I don't want your depression. That's depressing.
You only want the highlight reel from other people. But at the same time, this is why I personally don't like to engage in Facebook, because I think it's a bunch of bull. And it's like, I saw this trailer for another documentary about this guy who was like, okay, here's why I'm not on Facebook. Yeah. And I didn't watch the actual film, so I can't say whether it's good or not. But I was like, yes, I get it. I'm not on Facebook because it's not real life. It's fake book, right? It's not what we are. And that's one of the things I learned from making this movie is happiness exists in the first place. I mean, let's play this.
Despite everything that he's had to go through, he always does anything and everything with a smile, and he makes other people smile, which I think is more importantly about his happiness.
Always find the funny. I mean, that's what I do. I look for the funny. I think life's too short.
And why is writing and selling joke books for a living the happy thing to do?
Because it makes other people happy, which makes me happy.
So spreading happiness is what makes you happy.
Yes. I can't understand people say they haven't laughed for a long time. I laugh. I find them laughing every single day, you know.
And that's happiness. That's living a happy
Heck
life.
yeah, that's happiness.
Anyway, happiness exists in the first place because it's what bonds us together. It's what makes us strong. It's the glue that creates strength in humans. We're not strong individually. I mean, if a lion walked into this room right now, even the two of us, we'd probably be dead if he was hungry.
Well, it depends if I can run faster than you.
That's true. Yeah, you don't have to outrun the lion. You only have to outrun the guy behind you. But the thing is like in nature, we're not strong animals. We're only strong when we're together. Now, maybe the two of us could outsmart that lion and defeat the lion because if we work together, or if you run faster, but then we're both not going to survive. And
I might feel guilty afterwards about doing that, and then that would make me feel sad.
Right? Well, maybe you running and me cowering in a corner he's going to give chase. You never know. Maybe that's not the recipe. Maybe we need to work together.
As long as we can laugh about death, it's okay.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Laughing about death is always fun.
And on Facebook, like, to die in a traffic accident, that's nothing. But to say you were mauled by a lion, that's glorious.
Now, that's something to put on Facebook. But if you were mauled by a lion, you wouldn't be posting on Facebook.
I'll post for you.
Okay, thanks. I ran away. My friend got mauled.
But here's the awesome selfie of myself that has him in the background.
Getting mauled by that one. Yeah, exactly. But that's what, we did a lot of research. We talked to a lot of really smart, educated people, professors and scholars and scientists and stuff. And one of the things that they say is that, one of the problems with our society is that we're too self-centered, that we are very selfish. They say that the pursuit of happiness doesn't actually bring you happiness. By chasing happiness itself, you're never going to get it, because happiness isn't something that you can obtain by going after it. Happiness is the reward for other things. You do good work and somebody says, hey, Benji, great job on that. You're going to feel happy. But you weren't doing it to get that comment to feel happy. You were doing it to do good work. And then happiness is the result of that.
Love you. Love you. Bye, Mama. Love you. Bye. What are we going to do today?
The very best. Have a
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious day. All right. Love you. Bye.
Now, is this issue cross-cultural worldwide, or is it predominantly an American issue?
I would say that it's probably a cross-cultural worldwide issue. There are a lot of countries who operate very different than the United States. We focus this film on the United States for multiple reasons, one of which is just that it's a social issue that has a lot of cultural implications. And when you go outside of a certain cultural set, you all of a sudden change the rules. And so you could easily compare different cultures to each other. But I wanted to get inside our culture and see what we're doing wrong. Yeah. Because I could analyze another country and say, oh, well, here's what they're doing right. But I might not be in that situation. I might not be governed by their laws and, living in those situations. It's not going to mix with me as an American.
So happiness in communist China might be a different set of rules?
I'm pretty sure it is, yes. If you get a fresh blueberry muffin, you might be happy.
We're going to go to North Korea to find the happiest people in North Korea.
But the point is that, happiness itself is something that any one of us can obtain in any society. And if you look at America itself, we do certain things that definitely are contradictory to happiness. And like I said before, the point of happiness, the reason why we feel this emotion in the first place is because it binds us together. And so in this world where we're posting on Facebook, look how great I am, and taking selfies all the time, and we're very self-centered. It's all about the me, 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 me. And we often don't get outside of ourselves and look at what we can do for others and with others. And that is what breaks down the happiness bond, is the fact that we're not working together. We're not that team.
So what are some examples that you found of how people are doing things that they think are seeking happiness, but they really are not going to achieve that?
We didn't focus on people that weren't going to achieve happiness. We were focusing more on people that were achieving happiness. But I can say the second act of the film is all about what are we doing wrong, right? And what we're doing wrong is very simple. I mean, it's all this stuff where we don't work together. We don't do for each other. It's all about the me, 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 me. One of my favorite segments in the film, we talked to Professor Norton from Harvard, who studies the relationship we have between money and happiness. And he says, we ask everybody, he says, can money buy you happiness? And everybody invariably says, no, it can't. But yet we still all behave every day as if it can, and we expect it to. And when I make it rich, when I win the lottery, then I'll be happy, because I'll have my boat and I'll have this and I'll have that. But if you talk to those lottery winners, they're probably not very happy.
No, I mean, I saw this, I always heard, if you're not happy without it, you won't be happy with it.
Yeah.
And it's not only money. I had, a number of coaches I worked with back when I was figure skating were Olympic medalists and world champions. Yeah. And when I asked, one of my coaches who was an Olympic bronze medalist, what it was like to stand on the podium, he said he had spent his life saying that the end justified the means, and when he got there, he realized it wasn't very much, and that by the next morning it would be over. Yeah. When I asked my coach, who was the world champion, what went through his head on the world podium, all he could say was it wasn't the Olympics. Yeah. So you have to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And same thing with money. I mean, I will say that, money may not buy happiness, but not having money certainly won't.
Well, yeah, that's what Norton says, is he says there's a certain relationship between money and happiness, that money can increase your happiness, but only to a certain point. And in this country, it's probably about $90,000 a year at this point. It keeps going up. Yeah. When he did the study, it was about $75,000 a year. But that is the point where I think all of your basics are covered. You can have a roof over your head. You can not worry about where your next meal is coming from. Everything's covered. You're good. And then anything beyond that is icing on the cake. Right? And you don't necessarily need the more expensive car and the more, they're nice, don't get me wrong. We're all going to still keep chasing it. I mean, I'm not trying to change the way we think. I'm not a fool, right? We're not going to all of a sudden become, a socialist country that's just going to say, oh, let's just spread it all around and all will have $75,000 a year. It's not going to happen. But at least what we can do is dissect that relationship that we all have and say, okay, let's tear that apart. Let's realize that more money isn't going to bring me more happiness unless we do certain things with that money. Mm-hmm. Unless we, do things for other people. We take that money and we do good for the community. We do good for other individuals. That's where happiness comes into play. Because, if I saw, somebody on the side of the road who was dying of hunger and I handed them a sandwich, I'm going to feel good about myself because I just, gave that person a meal.
Exactly. So how did you find the happy people that you went and interviewed?
That's a very good question. That was initially when I came up with this concept, that was my biggest stalwart. I was like, okay, great. I'm going to go find the happiest people in the country. I only know like 200 people and none of them are really that happy, a few maybe, but so it's like, okay, how are we going to find all these people? So initially what I started doing was I started asking my friends, saying, okay, who's the happiest person you know? And I started getting referrals, and I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of working. These people were really cool and interesting and really happy. And so then we launched a Kickstarter campaign, not only to help fund the film, but also it got us hundreds of referrals all over the country that we were able to go follow up on.
You interviewed about 400 people, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Obviously, that many didn't make it in the film. How did you choose who went in the film? And then also, all those other interviews, like, will you ever do something with that?
We only chose the good-looking people.
Because they make you happy.
Because they make me happy. No, it was actually, that was probably the toughest part about making this film was, there was two things that once we got into the editing room, once we got off the road and said, okay, now we have all this footage, how are we going to make this work as a film? The two hardest parts were, one is, okay, where's the story? Because yeah, we set out to find all these people, and we found amazing people, but getting them all into one film, or at least a good group of them that don't have a connection necessarily other than this idea, was a tough thing. And so we spent a lot of time and a lot of iterations trying to crack that. And finally, we definitely came up with a really cool, cohesive film. So that was one. And then two was actually, realizing that some of these stories that I loved weren't going to make the film. And, we had to literally narrow it down to what worked. And so, we really came up with themes. We divided the film into 3 acts. The first act is why happiness. Mm-hmm. And the way we made the film was we not only interviewed the happiest people in the country, we also interviewed a bunch of scholars and scientists and all that to give the scientific side. And so where you have a piece of scientific evidence, we couple that with an emotional experience from one of these happy people. And that's where I say the aha moments come, is when you have scientific evidence and an emotional experience, boom, it's magic.
Well, that's great. Well, I mean, you've got a heck of a social campaign. You've got 400 interviews that you can be releasing clips every single day of those that weren't in there. But one of the really cool things, and I don't know if it was by design that I liked, though, was that a lot of your examples of happiness were not necessarily people that had everything going for them. Like life threw curveballs at many of them. Yeah. And yet through that, they still managed to choose happiness and they still pursued life on their terms.
It was by design, not my own. It's some cosmic design, I'm sure. Actually, it's funny you mention that because when I first set out to make this film, my goal was, I want to make a film about happiness. I'm only going to interview happy people. If they're not happy, I don't want to talk about what's miserable. I don't want to talk about any of that stuff. Forget it. And people were always like, well, don't you want to go into maybe they've gone through some stuff and they've found happiness and how they got there. I was like, no, I just want to talk about happiness. All sugar and candy, And I realized quickly that was going to be a very boring movie because you can only take so much of that crap. You just kind of want to smack happy people sometimes. But yeah.
Only when it's fake.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But what you realize is that, you can't have happiness without sadness. Life it's everything. It's not just one piece. And the trick is, and the key is not how do you become happy? It's how do you deal with the bad times so that they don't overtake you and you can get back to a place of happiness. You still have to live in those moments when bad stuff happens. It happens. It's life. And the trick is, how do you deal with those things and maintain a happy demeanor and a happy life despite all these things going on?
So how many trips did you go on over the course of 2 years to interview all these people?
We took 4 trips, but they were month-long trips, each one. We traveled over 6,000 miles. We hit over about 28 states.
So the whole process, obviously you got to talk with amazing people, very inspiring people. You got to have aha moments. how did it change you?
We met this guy, Edwin Edeberry, he runs a nonprofit called the I Am Happy Project. And basically what he does is he literally walks around the street, walking up to strangers, handing them a card that says, here's 10 ways to be happy. And I just want to talk about happiness. And most people are like taken aback, like, oh, what religion are you prophesizing? And, but he's literally like, no religion, just happiness. I just want to talk about happiness. And it's amazing to walk around with him and see the effect that he has on other people. Because at its core, happiness is contagious. When you're around somebody who's happy, you just automatically start feeling happy. And so, he spends 5 minutes with people at most, maybe 10 minutes. He has one story where he spent a half hour with some guy. And I got to do that for months and with hundreds of people. I mean, it's all consuming. I mean, and on top of that, everything that I learned, it's all these little tips and tricks that I literally run through my head daily.
Well, it's interesting, like what he's going through. I think that it's almost like that you and this project and everybody involved has to recalibrate America that happiness is possible because of like that reaction of like, you must be peddling something if you're trying to talk to me about happiness, because they're so jaded and against it. It's like you almost have to sit them down, smack them across the face and be like, you can have this.
Right. And it doesn't take a wall between here and Mexico to get it. We're making America great again. No, yes, you're absolutely right. That is one of my goals with this film, and why my stated goal is I want as many people to see this film as possible, because it really, there's so much information and so many tricks and so many things that you can take home with you that really are just about that. It's just about saying, hey, you can have this. We do deserve this. We don't talk about it enough. People don't pay attention to it enough. You're constantly told, oh, you better not do this or you're going to go to jail. You better not do this or you're going to... Right. It's like, yeah, but what can we do? We need to be encouraged to do the things that bring more happiness, not only into our own lives, but to other people as well.
Yeah. So where's the film going? How is it getting out there? Where can people see it? How can they further awareness of it?
Well, the film comes out actually next week on Tug, which is on-demand theatrical. Mm-hmm. So it'll be available on Tug. And then on May 17th, it comes out for educational. So it'll be available in schools, libraries, all the public libraries around the country will have it. Right. And then in the fall, we're going to do a DVD and VOD release as well.
Awesome. So for those of you who are not involved in the other channels, I'm afraid you'll have to wait till fall to be happy. This summer's gone. It's out. You're on your own.
You can also go to our website, pursuinghappiness.com, and we'll have ways you can see the film.
Perfect. So thank you so much. Good luck to you.
Thank you. This is great. Thanks for having me.
For free films and exclusive invites, join our email list at filmfestivalflix.com/email and follow us on social media with Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. In your home or on the go, we bring the festival to you.